Hello, welcome along to Sports Bet TV with me, Paul Alster, here with your racing selections ahead of Saturday, the 16th of October, which is Champions Day at Ascot. It is this tremendous day's racing we've got on Saturday. In many ways, the culmination of the season, and of course, of the Jockeys' Championship, which looks set to go all the way down to the wire between Oisin Murphy and William Buick. So he's made a real race of it as William Buick. Well, I'm looking forward to offering you 4 selections, all at very decent prices. And if you're new to the service, then this is a service where we're looking for decent each-way prices, pretty big odds wherever we can, if we really do fancy one. And that is what will be on offer once again. So do press the subscribe button just below this screen, and then you'll be in touch with all of my messages. Well, last week was quite a roller coaster for us, because to be honest, the first 3 selections, they ran like drains, didn't they? Gisborne stopped to nothing at York. That was a big shock, as it was Real Steel, who was well backed. Indeed, Gisborne was also well supported. He ran a poor race at Chepstow. It looks to me like he has some sort of a breathing difficulty, Real Steel. And then Glunthan, in the Dewhurst Stakes, he actually ran okay, much better than his finishing position suggested. After an awkward start, he was slightly hampered, stayed on, but never landed a blow in the Dewhurst. So after the first 3 selections, we were looking at 0 point, nil point. And then the last selection, Volatile Analyst, that some might argue could be named after my good self, recommended at 33 to 1. It had been the subject of a gamble on Friday evening into Saturday morning. It went off 11 to 1 with Callum Rodriguez riding for Keith Dalgleish, and it did exactly as I suggested it would. And it came through to lead inside the 2, quickened on, then drifted a little to the far rail, but stayed on really well to win the Coral Sprint. Eventually returned at just 11 to 1. But for those of you that followed me and were following the bulletin early, 33 to 1 was the recommendation each way, a massive hit. And of course, plenty of you will have been on at 25s, 22, 20s even 16 is very, very tasty. So it turned into a real cracker of a weekend in the end, and I hope you were on. And of course, it's not the first in recent weeks. No Speak Alexander at 25, not just a few weeks ago, and a few other very nice price winners. So we are on something of a roll, and we're looking forward to keeping that going. But if you are interested as well in slightly shorter priced horses, or rather much shorter price really, then at freebets.com here at YouTube, I'm also offering my thoughts. And in this Saturday's bulletin, they also include 2 of the races on Champions Day. So if you want to get the full 6 races from Champions Day, you can check out the 2 at Free Bets, and the 4 I'm about to deliver here at Ascot on Saturday. And my first selection is in the 125, the first race of the meeting, which is the Group 2 British Champions Long Distance Cup over 2 miles. Now, the going forecast at Ascot at the time of this recording, early on Friday lunchtime, is good to soft in places. They are saying it might dry out a bit, so it could just be good to soft ground, which shouldn't harm anybody. We've got 2 previous winners of the race. The mighty Stradivarius is here. He won it in 2018. And Trushan, who defends his crown, the 2020 winner, and who has gone on, of course, to really establish himself as the top stayer in Europe, I would say. And these 2 are meeting up again. They've had a series of races in the Prix de Cadran at Longchamp a couple of weeks ago. Trushan comfortably beat Stradivarius on very testing ground. And of course, he won this race last year by 7.5 lengths. He is pretty bomb-proof, actually, when you look at the form. And the problem is he's around 11.08, 6 to 4, which at the end of a long season doesn't really appeal to me, given my way of thinking and punting. Whereas Stradivarius, who I've got the greatest respect for, he has been a superstar, a really wonderful horse. I'm not convinced he's as good as he was. He did win a couple of nice races mid-season, but they weren't against the creme de la creme. And I think he'll probably just be found out again, although if he did win, he'd just raise the roof with Frankie Dettori on board. Now, of the rest, Hamish, he's a dark horse for William Haggis, very lightly raced, had problems in training over the years. He was second to Trushan a couple of years ago, only beaten a neck at Newbury over about 1.5 miles. He then came back after a 15-month layoff to beat the very talented Hookham on the all-weather at Kempton over 1.5 miles. That was a massive run. And remember, this horse is proven at least 1.75 miles. He won 2 very big handicaps at York over that trip, including, I think, the Melrose back in 2019. He's got low mileage, and the Haggers team are having a wonderful autumn, so he is a danger. One of my old favourites is Princess Zoe, but she was really quite disappointing, I thought, in France after travelling up well 2 weeks ago. She could bounce back for the Tony Mullins team, but she won't be carrying my money. But another Irish raider will, and that one is Baron Samedi, trained by Joseph O'Brien, the baby-faced assassin, and the man of another baby-faced Irishman, young Dylan Brown McMonagle, who, if you don't know him, is one of the fast-rising stars of the Irish weighing room. He really is a very talented young jockey that some people are tipping as a future champion. And Joseph latched onto him 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and he's come a very long way since as Dylan Brown McMonagle. And so too has Baron Samedi, who's a 4-year-old gelding by Harbour Watch. Bargain basement horse cost 3,500 guineas, which is absolutely buttons in the horse world, as I'm sure most of you will know. Now, he showed nothing in 3 runs as a 2-year-old. He looked pretty ordinary, to say the very least, and was modest in his first 2 runs as a 3-year-old. And then the decision was taken to give him the most unkindest cat of all, and he was gelded. And that completely transformed this horse straight away. After the gelding operation, he won at Cork over 1.25 miles in a handicap on heavy ground off just 65. And he went on to win 4 in a row, culminating with a victory at Listowel over 1.5 miles in heavy ground off 97. So he improved 32 pounds over 4 runs. And then he followed that up by being stepped up to Group Company, a Group 2 at Longchamp last season, and he went and won that as well. So this horse, 5 in a row last season, absolutely tremendous. And then he came out this season as a 4-year-old. A lot of people said, well, it was a bit of a fluke. He had a great run, but he's hit his ceiling. None of it. He won first time out this season. He won the Group 3 Vintage Crop Stakes, really quite impressively on good ground. And then Joseph sent him across to New York, where he ran in the Belmont Gold Cup over 2 miles. And again, he won really, really well. And that was his 7th win in a row. After that, he went up to Group 1, but they dropped him back to 1.5 miles, which probably was a mistake. He ran well, went a pretty close fist to the talented Broom over in France. And then last time out, after a break, he ran in the Irish St. Leger. You remember the race won by Sonny Boy Liston for Johnny Murter, but if you get a look at the replay, you'll see the horse in white and red staying on towards the outside, and that horse running on really well to be third was Baron Samedi. For me, he's crying out to go back up to 2 miles, and that run should have probably put him spot on. Hard to believe, really. He ran in an Irish Classic to put him spot on for Champions Day, but I think that's pretty much what's happened. And he's got the cheek pieces on as well for the first time, which might just sharpen him up and get a little bit more improvement out of him. So while he has £8 to find on official figures, I'm really quite optimistic that Baron Samedi is going to get very close indeed to Trushan, and I think at an each-way price, he represents value. Now, the 8-1 that was available early on Friday has gone. He's now 7-1 each way, but that is with four places with the likes of William Hill and Betfred amongst 1 or 2 others. So he's my first choice. Baron Samedi in the opener at Ascot on Saturday to beat both Trushan and Stradivarius in what should be a hell of a race. And indeed, it's just outstanding racing all afternoon. My second selection on this service is the 310 race, which is the QE2, the Queen Elizabeth II Stakes. And this one is just a breathtaking contest. You know, even somebody like me that, you know, really does love my jumping. If you can't get excited about a race like this on the flat, then you're really in the wrong game, I think. Well, this on good to soft, soft in places overnight, but may well dry out to good to soft. It is a wonderful race. At the time of the recording here, we've got Palace Pier as the 13-to-8 favourite for the Gostons. He's won 9 of his 10 career races. He's got a sky-high rating of 125, and he's 4 from 4 this year. He really is very high class. You probably remember that ding-dong battle he had, beating the recently retired Poetic Flair in the Prix Jacques Le Marois over in France at Deauville a couple of months ago. Now, a couple of points here. One is that his only defeat in his life came in this very race 12 months ago. There were 1 or 2 excuses. I think he lost a shoe, and he had 1 or 2 struggles along the way that day. So I'm not going to put the track down as any factor, of course, because he's won here. But I just don't think there's any value in the price, and we have seen surprises in this race. So I'm against Palace Pier. Now, Baid is the big one that a lot of people are teeing up against him, and with good reason. He's unbeaten, 5 from 5. William Haggis has brought him along beautifully, nice and steadily through the ranks. And last time out, he won his first Group 1, the Prix de Moulins at Longchamp, and he was pretty impressive there, beating Order of Australia. That form's been let down by Order of Australia, running quite poorly last time out, but you can't blame that on Baid. And he could be anything. Generally a 9 to 4 shot, 5 to 2 in places. It's going to be fascinating to see just what he produces when the gun is put to his head here. It'll be amazing to see these two going after each other. And then we've got last year's winner, the horse that sprung the surprise, the French horse, the Revenant. He likes soft ground, so if there is any rain or if he doesn't dry out, it will suit him. We've got Master of the Sea, Murphy and Buick, because William Buick rides a horse that was beaten only a short head in the 2000 Guineas, and he was off for quite a while after that until finishing a good third to Ben Battle, who reopposes here. But my worry for him is if the ground doesn't dry out, because this is a horse who really is at his best on decent or even quick ground. And then we've got Mother Earth for the fillies, the 1,000 Guineas winner, classy, tough, always there or thereabouts in top company. The older filly is Lady Bowthorpe, who won the Nassau Stakes, and she could again be in the mix. But it's another filly for me, 3-year-old alcohol-free, trained by Andrew Balding, the Mount of Oisin Murphy, who is doing everything he can to hold on to his jockey's title, despite all the ups and downs he's been having over the last few weeks. And he's got a massive chance, I think, with this lovely filly, who's getting weight for age off Palace Pier and getting weight off Baid as well. She won the Group 1 Cheveley Park Stakes last year as a 2-year-old over 6 furlongs. She began this season winning the Group 3 Fred Darling Stakes at Newbury in April. And then she was second to Mother Earth in the 1,000 Guineas on good to firm ground at HQ. She went on to win the Coronation Stakes on heavy ground, Group 1 at Royal Ascot. It was a great performance, beating Mother Earth and Snow Lantern. Then she was third on unsuitably fast ground. I don't think she's at her best on fast ground in the Falmouth Stakes at the July course at Newmarket, of course, where she beat Poetic Flair. And Poetic Flair is the key here because he's a wonderfully tough, reliable, high-class yardstick. And he was beaten a length and 3/4. And when you think that Palace Pier only just scrambled home from that horse, from Poetic Flair, on that line, you have to give Alcohol Free a real proper chance here. You can ignore her last run. She didn't stay the extended 10 furlongs as an experiment in the Juddmonte International at York, but on all previous form, and coming back now from a 2-month break, she'll jockey that. He's going to throw the kitchen sink at her because he really does need these winners. And I think she's a sporting each way bet to topple the 2 big stars here. And at 10 to 1 each way with the likes of Bet365 and Betway, my choice is Alcohol Free to spring a surprise at Ascot in the 310 in what is a wonderful renewal of the QE2 Stakes. I'm going to move on to another brilliant race. It's the Champion Stakes. We've got so many great memories from this race over the years, of course. 1.25 miles, Group 1 on the round course, good to soft and places overnight. And wow, I mean, what a race this is. This could be just about the best race in the world this year. And it's a who's who of the mile and a quarter sphere. And the favourite is the horse who'd already won 9 million quid in prize money before our flat season even started this year, because he won in February and March at the Shima Classic and the Saudi Cup. And that is, of course, Mishrif for John and Thady Gosden and David Egan. Tremendous horse. He went on to be beaten 4 lengths by St Mark's Basilica in the Eclipse. And then after finishing second to a Dayar, the Derby winner in the King George over a mile and a half, didn't he just slam them at York in the Juddmonte International? It was a brilliant performance. He's rated 127, one of the world's very highest rated horses. And he is going to be a very tough nut to crack. So too is Adair, who beat him and beat him quite comfortably in the King George, although Adair probably had a bit of fitness on his side, having won the Derby the time before. Now, Adair for Charlie Appleby and William Buick, who of course is chasing the championship. He ran a marvellous race in the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe 2 weeks ago in heavy ground, kicking clear 2 out, but just unable to hang on inside the final furlong. But goodness me, he had a hard race there. I mean, that really was a tough race. If he can bounce back from that within 2 weeks, then he really is the new iron horse. So because of that, I'm against him. I think that race may just have taken the edge off him. We've got last year's winner, Dave, who I tipped on this service last year when he won at about 9-1. And he, again, is a horse who has a massive chance for William Haggis. He's been aiming at this race once again all year. He was second to St Mark's Basilica at Sandown. He'd won a really big Group 1 race over in Australia during the winter. He's all class. But William Haggis has also been talking up his second string. And I don't know, he's won a couple of French Group 2s, his horse, Dubai Honour. But he'll have to really improve something if he's going to win this race. I can't quite have him, even though Haggis seems bullish. And for me, I'm interested in a horse who did run in the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe, and that is the French raider, the 3-year-old colt SEALIWAY, who is trained by Cedric Rossi and is the mount of Michael Barcelona, who you probably remember famously winning the Epsom Derby on Pont Moine, standing up, as Richard Hoyles, my old pal, said, as if he thinks he's won the Derby. And he had won the Derby. So Michael Barcelona knows how to win these big races. And this SEALIWAY is a fascinating horse. He's a 4-time winner. He won the Group 1 Prix Jean-Luc Lagardère in France last year. He beat what was then a very good 2-year-old of last season, Nando Parado, by 8 lengths. That was when trained by Frederic Rossi, the father of Cedric Rossi. His first 3 runs for his previous trainer this season were pretty good, including when he was only beaten 1 3/4 lengths when second in the French Derby. And that was behind that horse again, St Mark's Basilica, whose form is tying in with just about all of the top horses in this race. Now, he joined Cedric Rossi, and his very first run for the yard was actually in the Arc, over 1.5 miles, and he travelled beautifully. Watch the race, watch him coming through on the outside, just over 2 furlongs from home, and he was probably going as well as anything at that point, but he just didn't quite see it out, I don't think, in the heavy ground. But that was his first run for a little while. He finished 5th in the end, no disgrace, of course. And I think dropping back to this 1.25 miles with some give in the ground that he likes, I think he's going to run a massive race. Now, the French have a good record in this race. In the last decade alone, they've won with the likes of Al Manzour, who was a real cracker jock. He beat Found, Jack Hobbs, and the Great Gatsby in a memorable renewal. And then, of course, a little bit further back in the decade, Corinne Baron-Barb's Cyrus de Zagel, who was a really tough horse, and he beat So You Think and Snow Fairy and Nathaniel in another wonderful renewal. So the French send these horses over when they think they have a chance. And I think that SEALIWAY has a big, big chance here. And 14-1 each way is a general price. Remember to shop around, look for the value. And Bet365 and Sky Bet are both going 4 places. And that'll do for me. So SEALIWAY each way 14 to 1 in the Champions Stakes is the third of my 4 selections on Champions Day. And then I'm going to take you on briefly to the last race there, the 4:30, the Balmoral Handicap, straight mile, 20 runners, cavalry charge. But as I'm sure a lot of you know, I do like the challenge of these big handicaps. And there is a horse here who could just be a blot on the handicap, Sunray Major for the Gosdens. He's beautifully bred. He's a half brother to the brilliant Kingman, who's become a great sire. He's won his last 2, a novice stakes and then a 7 furlong handicap. And he could be very well in here under a £6 penalty, but 11 to 4 in a hot 20 runner handicap. I'm not convinced that there's any value there. The Gosdens also run King Leonidas, who was a favourite when only 6 for the Group 3 Jersey Stakes at Royal Ascot. He did run well in the old Autumn Cup at Newbury, went 3rd last time out, over 1.25 miles. So stamina, no problem for him on that uphill run to the line over the stiff mile. Adari, well, he's got a £6 penalty for a very good win over 7 furlongs at Ascot 2 weeks ago. Represents in form William Haggis. Nugget, another one in good form. Richard Hannon and Ryan Moore team up, and he's won 2 of his last 3. But the astonishing thing about this race, and I had to look twice here, you've got a 20-runner Ascot handicap, loads of horses with chances, and yet, when you look across all the odds comparison sites, they're generally betting 20 to 1 bar 4 in a 20-runner handicap. Now, that suggests to me that some horses are pretty big, 20 to 1 and bigger, who must be each way value, especially with some firms paying 5, even 6, and even 7 places if you have a look around. So having had a look through, I've kind of come up with a short list, the first of which was Sebaska, who's a hugely consistent, tough, classy individual. He's drawn 3 over on the far side. Don't know if that's good or bad. It does change meeting to meeting. He's got the top weight of 9 stone 11. Remember, he was 3rd in the Queen Anne over course and distance earlier in the season to no lesser horse than Palace Pier. And if he were to bring that form to this race, even off 9.11, he'd be hard to beat. He's run very well in his start since in Group 2, Group 3 and listed company. And this is a drop in class, and Ocean Murphy is on board for William Knight, so he'll be giving it everything. And I very nearly went with him, but in the end, just edging it for me is a horse called Dashing Roger, who's trained by William Stone, a trainer many of you may not be too familiar with. And he's the mount of Marco Gianni, who's going to be crowned Champion Apprentice of Britain on Saturday afternoon at Ascot after a wonderful season. That includes, of course, that runaway victory for Saeed bin Saror in the Royal Hunt Cup, amongst others. Now, this horse is a credit to his trainer, who is a very good trainer, William Stone. He's improved 36 pounds, and that takes some doing. His latest win was a comfortable success on the round course at Ascot, over the mile in the Shergar Cup. He won really nicely there off 99. He's got up another 5 pounds, and he goes on any ground. He is honest, he is tough. He's drawn 23 right onto the stands rails, which may or may not be an advantage. But my thinking is here that with the red-hot favourite drawn near him in 21, it could be that he'll have that really promising horse to go with on the stand side. So I think Dashing Roger, who, if he was trained by one of the big yards, would surely be only half the price, 10, 12 to 1. But he's trained by William Stone, who knows the horse so well and has done so well with him, and is 25 to 1 each way generally. 5 places, plenty of them offering. You have a good look around. If you can get somebody to offer you 6 or even 7 places, get in there. So that's Dashing Roger, the last of my 4 selections on Champions Day on Saturday. We had a 33 to 1 winner last week. It'd be lovely if we're able to follow up with another tasty winner or 3 this weekend. And remember, if you're interested in my 2 selections for the other 2 Ascot races on Champions Day, they're going to be available on the Free Bets.com YouTube channel, which you can check out right now. But that's it on this channel at Sportsbet TV. Thanks all for supporting me, and a quick thank you as well for your kind words after last week's success. Let's hope they all run well once again, and I'll be back same time next week. Bye-bye for now.